ready when you are.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to have a very nice discussion here. And I believe you are an Orthodox Jew, is what I'm guessing.
That's correct.
Okay. And your name is Moshe Emis.
Yeah, Moisha's fine. Moisha's fine.
Okay, wonderful. And you're in the UK, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And if you don't mind asking, where are you originally from?
My father, as in like ethnically, or where in the UK, or what do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
ethnically.
So my father's side comes from more Sephardi side, so more Middle Eastern side, and my mother's side is more European side.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, wonderful. So how long have you been in the UK?
all my life.
Hmm.
How about you?
Okay. So I'm originally from Pakistan, and I'm very similar to you that I've been in the U.S. all my life as well.
Very
So
nice.
I believe the topic of tonight's discussion is going to be, you know, the reliability of the Torah and why Jews should believe in it. And I think you are prepared to discuss and debate on that. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's no
Okay,
problem.
wonderful. So we're going to go 2 minutes back and forth. And
That's fine.
the thing is about Islam. I don't know if you had it. Well, let me back up. How did you find my YouTube page?
So, I've been following the Dawah game for quite a few months.
Okay.
Been very interested by it. Some
Yeah.
some arguments are convincing, some come from misinterpreting, some
Hmm.
come from just evil ideas that people put against the Torah to try and convert
Hmm.
people away from Judaism. And
Sure.
following the words of the Torah. So, I mean, I came across your YouTube channel from your debates with Dr. Brown, for example, other debates like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Yeah. So the main argument, what the platform which I debate on is the issue I always raise is that Islam is a fact-based religion and Christianity is an interpretation-based religion. And
okay.
maybe sometimes the facts may not be as impressive. Like if you looked at my discussion with Dr. Brown, I said, that's your interpretation. And I kept to that throughout the entire discussion. That brought so much laughter and ridicule that the Christians thought they won that debate because that's all I said. I said,
Hmm.
it's just your interpretation. But here's the thing, Moshe, your name is Moshe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That statement is a verifiable, testable fact.
correct.
As unimpressive as it is, it still is a fact. I need, well, there goes, I needed that, by the way. Sorry about that. I'm in the middle of a live stream. Sorry. Yeah, it's on. Yeah. So they keep grabbing my stuff because they want to play their video games and things like that. So
It's no problem.
uh, yeah. So I'm sorry about that. But what Brown was giving us was his interpretation that this can only be referring to the Israelites. But the point which I was trying to make is, does it really explicitly say that the brethren can only be your Israelites? It can never refer to an Ishmael. I mean, does it really explicitly state that, or that's just kind of your
Right.
interpretation?
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's very simple. So you're saying that you don't go based upon interpretation, which means you believe in a form. It's a word called intentionalism, which means you have to believe what the author intended and not what's interpreted. For example, if I'm sending a messenger to you and I'm relaying a certain message that you're sick, for example.
Yeah.
Now I might convey that you're literally being sick, or I might convey that you're sick as in good at something.
Hmm.
But let's say you misinterpret this, right? It doesn't mean that the original intention from the person sending the message is wrong. It just means the intention is wrong. All commentaries on the Torah, all the 5 books of Moses, come
Hmm.
from the Jews originally, which means if you want to hold by the standards of that sort of interpretation, then you as a Sunni Muslim cannot critique the Torah. Why? Because all interpretations come from the root source of Moses. So if you want to hold by that sort of interpretation, clearly you can't even talk about the Torah because ultimately, surely that's your interpretation.
So let me give you a better example of what I mean by that. I understand what you're saying. I'm not necessarily denying that. So, what do I mean by Islam as a
Mhm.
fact-based interpretation? So there's a big debate which took place between John Mongrel and Ross Kemp. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so John Mongrel was a prisoner. He was in jail. Ross Kemp was introducing him, and he was like this gang leader. And so
Yeah.
Ross Kemp said so basically, John Mongrel said, every man who walks in this prison must have sex with me. And so Ross Kemp said, okay, so you're gay. He says, no, I'm not gay. He just said, well, you just said everyone has to have sex with you, so that means you're gay. He said, no, I'm not gay. He went back and forth. I'm gay. I'm not gay. So to finally, John Mongrel said, look, the relationship I have with these men is like that of a man and a woman, triggering a spectacular debate victory. And Ross Kemp just hanged his head in the ground and just walked away defeated and humiliated. Now, here's my point to this. See, what John Mongrel did when confronted with an unpleasant fact, an unpleasant reality, all he did was reinterpret the reality. And what was so amazing about this is he really defined what it means to be a born-again Christian. That's exactly what John Brown did. I'm sorry, Michael Brown, right? I keep forgetting his name. Mike Brown did. All he did was gave us mongrel interpretations when confronted with facts. So the problem with Christians, and I think Jews have the same problem, they struggle to decipher between what is a fact and what is an interpretation. When I'm confronting you with a fact and all you do is spin a mongrel type interpretation, then that is my objection there. And I'm sure you wouldn't do that, because that's what the Christians do, right?
Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. Okay,
great.
That's no problem.
So let's begin. And the problem with the Christian. So, we'll continue on that. And my ear thing is just keep falling out. Okay, so we'll begin our discussion here. And I guess and we'll just go so that we're not kind of like talking over each other. We could just go like 2 minutes back and forth. Each one of us should at least be able to talk for 2 minutes uninterrupted. So, you want to put your faith in the. Hold on a second. Let me get my little stopwatch here. You want to put your faith in the Torah.
Yeah.
But did the Torah ever make the claim that it will never get changed? It will never get corrupted. So does the Torah offer this type of reassurance? Now, granted, it could probably claim it's the word of God. It could probably claim it's perfect. There's a verse that actually says the Torah is perfect. But does it actually state that it will never be changed, it will never be corrupted? Because this is actually the promise which Allah gave us inside chapter 15, verse 9 of the Quran. I'll share that verse with you, where it did promise us that. So maybe that's the first place we could start. So go ahead, take 2 minutes and share that verse with us.
It does. The Torah states in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 21. Right? Do you want to open the verse? You're welcome to open it.
Yeah. Did you want to share your desktop? You could share it and we could look at it.
I prefer you do it just because I'd rather just search stuff on my phone. I'm happy to show you on my phone.
Yes, I can be your Vanna White. Do you know who Vanna White is?
Tell me.
So Vanna White was. Let me share my desktop and you'll see who Vanna White is.
No problem.
So Vanna White, there's this talk show, or I'm sorry, it was a game show. It's called The Wheel of Fortune. And in Wheel of Fortune, she was the one who presented all the kind of stuff, like spin the wheel, things like that. So. Let me share my little thing here. Oh, where am I? Okay, here we go. And I will look up the verse for you. So I'm sorry. So let me first show you Vanna White.
No problem.
Yeah, this is Vanna White. So she would spin the wheel. She'd help out Pat Sajak on the game show host. So so that's Vanna White. All right, so let's go. Deuteronomy. What is it?
31:21. Now, when I read the Bible, I read it based upon the Hebrew. I don't rely upon the King James. You're welcome to, but it's not going to be accurate to what the Hebrew is. I go based upon the Hebrew.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's very simple in terms of the Bible being corrupted. If it has a claim that it can't be corrupted, so on and so forth. Right. So first of all, it states in Deuteronomy 31:21, when many evils, I'm going to read from my translation. When many evils and troubles befall upon you, this song shall serve as a witness, right? So serve as a sign, since it will never be lost from the offspring or the mouth of your offspring's offspring. For I know their plans are. Before I bring them into the promised land, I promised on oath. So here's a verse that clearly states that the Torah says, as Torah say, will never leave the mouth of the children of Jacob. So this in itself is sufficient to establish that the Torah will never be lost until the entire Klal Yisrael, the entire nation of Eretz Yisrael, are within the land of Israel that God promised upon oath. Another verse I could use is Isaiah 59:21.
Well, let's just do one at a time if we could, so I can. Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. And Many disasters and calamities come upon them, and this song will testify against them, because it will not be forgotten by their descendants. Okay, so that's referring to us. You're not going to forget the song,
Yeah.
or referring to the Jews. I'm sorry. I know what they are disposed to do, even before I bring them into the land I promised them on. Oh, so your interpretation of this verse is that it's
No.
promising a type of textual preservation.
No. It's not
Okay.
my interpretation. It's the interpretation that has been transmitted since Moses, alav shalom. So when we got the Torah, Moses also provided interpretations. We're not Aklis. We don't take the text of the Torah and interpret that to suit our narrative. Rather, we take the narrative that has been transmitted in the millions since the prophets and Moses and Sinai, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to interpreting verses, we don't, like I said, we don't interpret it like the Christians, for example, Isaiah 53, Daniel 9. We translate it according to the narrative that Moses alav shalom passed down to us, right? Likewise, again, with Muslims, you'll see, for example, Muslims trying to interpret the Bible to mean certain things, Deuteronomy 18:18, like it's saying Isaiah 42, Deuteronomy 32:2, so on and so forth. We don't do that. Rather, we rely upon the unbroken chain of transmission that has been transmitted in the millions with a very strong chain.
So you're trying to say that some of the rabbis have, in your tradition, some of the rabbis have used this to show textual preservation. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying some of the rabbis. I'm saying the entire Kalal Yisrael, the entire nation of Eretz Yisrael, the entire nation of Israel, all attest to the fact that this verse is referring to the idea that the Torah will never be lost. And how do I know this? Because Rashi, one of our greatest sages, Rambam, Maimonides, Ramban, for example, all take this interpretation of this verse. And the entirety of the Jewish nation agree with what the Rambam has to say. They verify that he's 100% reliable when it comes to his interpretation of verses. But again, it's not his interpretation. It's the interpretation that he's transmitted.
Yes.
So we all can agree that whatever he says, even if he contradicts the Torah in entirety, for example, if Moses said, I have 4 kids, Rambam says, no, Moses had 18 kids. We'd establish that what the Rambam is saying is true. Not that Moses actually had 18 kids according to the Rambam, but the Torah is only listing 10 of them, which means we take the words of the sages as important as that of the Torah, because without the Torah, without the sages, we can't have the Torah. So
well, yeah, that's like with Catholicism. The Catholics believe in pretty much the same thing. And this is the tradition. This is basically what we call the minhaj, or the methodology of the idol worshippers.
Sure.
That they, that they follow what their holy men of old have told them. And so they use this body of interpretation, I guess it's this committee of interpreters, to interpret the scripture. And I understand that. Look, the issue here, which I'm trying to raise to you, does the Torah explicitly state what I have asked you? That, hey, listen, this book will be preserved. Now, I understand the layers of interpretation which you are pasting upon the Torah, but the question is, I need an explicit text that the Torah is stating of itself, hey, listen, this book is going to be preserved throughout the ages. It will never get changed. I mean, is there a verse like that?
Yes. So again, if you read the verse, when many troubles befall upon you, this poem, this song will serve as a witness and will never be forgotten to the Torah. This is referring to the Torah. I don't know if you read the Bible. This is Deuteronomy. This is before Moses dies. He recounts in this chapter the entire Torah to the nation of Israel. And he warns them. He says, stick with the Torah, stick with the Torah. Don't deviate to false prophets. Stay with the Torah for eternity. And when you go through troubles...
Stay for eternity? Where is... Okay, so let's just... Now, you got to take me through this slowly. What I understand from this verse is when many disasters and calamities come upon them, this song will testify against them because it will not be forgotten by their descendants. Okay, so just saying, listen, your descendants are never going to forget this. The song is going to be with you. It's going to help you, support you. Okay,
Torah,
okay, yes. we could say it's a Torah. Okay,
it is a Torah because it says.
Okay, let's go along with. I want to be charitable to you, but I mean, I'm reading this, dude. I am not seeing anything which is said that it will be perfectly preserved. No error can creep into it. No mistake can happen to it. That's not what the text says here. That's an interpretation. Wouldn't you agree?
It's not an interpretation. And even if it was an interpretation, it still wouldn't make a difference because ultimately all the sages have transmitted this verse to me.
Understand the holy man.
Which means, which means what you're doing is you're doing what you said you don't do at the beginning, which is that's their interpretation. So ultimately, I believe, like I said, in intentionalism, I believe the only person that has a right to critique the Torah is the one who made it. Now, if that's transmitted through the Jewish nation, what does Sunnis have to say about the Torah? They have no right.
Okay, hold on. Let me change my little thing here. This is not working, my ear thing. Hold on one second.
No problem.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. No, look, dude, I'm understanding how important the sages are. At this point, I'm not questioning that. I understand how the scriptures have been traditionally interpreted. I'm not speaking to that at this point. However, what I'm explaining to you that if you just look for an explicit promise, a surety from the Torah itself, that hey, this book will not be changed, this will not be corrupted. It's just not there. Now, I understand how this interpretation makes so much sense to you and how it has been ratified by the holy men of old. I totally get it. But I need you to get that's not what the Torah is explicitly stating for itself.
So the sages are saying what the Torah says. So even
Okay,
if the Torah never said it,
I understand what
give
the
me 2
holy men are
moments.
saying.
But they're not the holy men though. They're the Torah. I am the Torah. I am transmitted Torah, and the Torah is within me.
Oh,
And
okay. So the whole your definition of Torah is not just the scriptures, or it is
yes,
actually the holy men are also the
no.
Torah.
So the Torah means the teachings, right? The teachings.
Okay.
So if a Rav were to transmit, right, a teaching, that in itself is the Torah. Now, if a Rav has transmitted the idea that this verse alludes to so and so fact, whether it be, that is the fact it alludes to, right? Now, we only, like I said, we only take from the most authentic, reliable Rabbanim. Like, for example, Maimonides, we verify his works across the entire Jewish nation. We have a very clear methodology into verifying and accepting our Gedolei, our sages of Israel's work. Again, in regards to this verse, you said you wanted a promise. The word promise is within here. It says, in the land I promised them, it will not be forgotten, right? So it will not be forgotten in the land that I promised them. So this is a promise that won't be forgotten until they're in the land. So there itself, and again, if you have to actually read the context of the verse, because I don't believe you've done that. If you read the context of the chapter, it's regarding the Torah. The word literally states the Torah.
I'm giving you that, dude. Yeah.
In which case, you have to actually provide like a response that actually refutes that verse, because you're not doing that. You're just making a standard that I've already responded like 3 times. So yeah.
Okay. So this is you're pretty much playing the same game I think Michael Brown and all the Christian charlatans are playing. I mean, I understand it because it goes back to John Mongrel. It goes back to not having an understanding of what the difference between an interpretation versus what is explicitly written. Now, you seem to have broadened the definition of what the Torah is, but I only understand what's written scripture. And in the written, now you keep going back to the holy men, the sages, as holy as they are and as sacred as they are, they have said this stuff is never going to get changed. I totally understand that. But the point which you need to understand, Moshe, if you go to the Bible, what the Christian, and that's what I understand, what the Christians understand to be the Bible, if you go to that book and you start reading it, you're not going to find any surety. You are not going to find any promise from God that this book is never going to have errors. It's never going to have corruption inside of it. So I think we're done with that point. And but one thing I do want to also kind of enlighten you is what Judaism, the way it is being interpreted in your religion. This is the religion of the mushrikeen. What I mean by that? This is the way the idol worshippers. This is the way the Christians, who you believe are the idol worshippers. And all the false religions play the same game. Their scripture cannot stand by itself like the Holy Quran can. And debate victory after debate victory has demonstrated that. It cannot stand by itself. Rather, they got to go back to the holy men to cover up the holes in the narrative. And that's what we're finding here. The fact that your book doesn't have this assurity. I mean, literally written in there. So the holy men of the old plug up the holes. Christians do it. Hindus do it. And the reason why I say Islam is a true religion, and when I debate Islam, I don't go back to any holy men and do what you did. I show the Quran can stand by itself. The Quran is, and I don't rely on the interpretation, even though, now, off camera, sure, I'm going to commentaries and tafsirs and things like that, but that's not. But the Quran can stand by itself is my point. So I want to show you one error in your book. If you could,
no problem. Can I respond? Yeah. You've had about 3 minutes. Can I quickly respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
I'll just quickly respond. So in regards, let's concede. Let's say you're right, which I don't believe you are, but let's say you are. The Torah states in Deuteronomy 29:28 that the Torah, the laws of the Torah, are to be done for all eternity, ad olam, which means that even if God, let's say, didn't promise to follow the laws forever, so that the Torah wouldn't be corrupted, he still tells us to follow the laws forever. So if I were to concede that the Torah could be corrupted, either way, that's no issue with me. Why? Because ultimately God tells us the Torah is an eternal covenant, Isaiah 59:21. The Torah is an eternal law, Deuteronomy 29:28. So even if God himself, right, establishes that the Torah can't be corrupted, yes, God clearly tells us the Torah is eternal. So if that's the case,
Okay, what verse are you talking about?
Let me finish. So I'm talking about Devarim, Deuteronomy 29:28. And I'm reading from a Hebrew Bible, if you want to go to Hebrew. So that's the issue.
Well, okay, I think the verse you might be referring to is saying, okay, follow the laws forever. God's laws. Yes. Okay, well, God's law can be found in other revelations. I mean,
it doesn't say
problem. The problem here is Torah doesn't really say this is it. This is the only revelation you're going to get. No more revelation. Where is that?
The beginning of the verse. The revealed things apply to us and our children forever. We must fulfill the words of the Torah. So the revealed things in past tense, not what's going to reveal applies forever. Rather, what's been revealed applies forever. In which case, again, even if the Torah were to say clearly, the entirety of the Torah will be corrupted. However, do not deviate from the Torah and just keep following it, even if it gets corrupted. If that's what the position I was going to take, this would not be an issue, since ultimately, right, it's God who's instructed the Jews to never deviate from the Torah. This again is Devarim 13:1. Do not add or take away from the Torah.
Yeah, the question I'm asking you is, okay, so Torah was a revelation given by God to Moses. And so you've got this revelation, wonderful. But so the verse which I'm looking for is where it says, that's it, no more revelation can come. There'll be no more future revelations. I mean, does it explicitly state that? Like that would rule out the Quran, that would rule out the Injil, the New Testament. Where would it explicitly state? I mean, certainly the Christians would have found a verse in your book which would say revelation is stop over here. I mean, where is this stuff?
They did, and they took it out. It's Devarim 13:1 to 13:6.
Okay, well, let me share my desktop so we could look at it together.
You're
this
not
is
gonna
not
find
another one of your interpretation things where you got to revert back to holy man, is it?
No, we don't do that. We just rely upon the text. However, even
okay, let's rely upon the text. That's what I'm looking for. So this is going to say that's it.
So if you give me 2 moments, the Christians actually took this verse out, believe it or not, in the King James. Not going. If you go onto Safaria, go onto a website called Safaria, if you don't mind.
Safaria.
And then go to Devarim, to Deuteronomy. Okay. This gives a clear criteria, right? I'm just going to paraphrase.
Where should I go?
Tanakh, so the top left.
Tanakh.
And then go to 3 down.
3 down. Deuteronomy?
Yeah. And then go to 13. Okay. Be careful to observe only which I have joined upon you. Right? Neither add nor take away from it.
Okay.
If there appears among you a prophet, right? Mm-hmm. Or a dream diviner who gives you a sign or a portent, saying, let us follow and worship another God, whom you have not experienced, even if the sign or portent comes, this name comes true to you, right? Do not heed for the prophet. Do not heed to the prophet or the dream diviner. For your God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is testing you whether you really love him with all your heart and soul. So it states there, even if a prophet comes, and then verse 1, Azul takes away. This isn't correct. Note the Torah is eternal. The Torah stands forever, like it says in Devarim 29:28, like I showed you already. So no prophet can add or take away. In which case, it's an eternal law that cannot be added to by other prophets. You'll see, for example, the Nevi'im and the Kesuvim, right? The writings and the prophets, those books, right, of the Tanakh. What? They don't add laws. They don't take away laws. Rather, they just strengthen the law of Moses.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me say. Now, it does say, be careful to observe only that which I enjoin upon you, neither add to it or take away from it. So this is talking about the Torah. You don't add to the Torah nor take away from the Torah. That's fine. If there appears among you a prophet or somebody who basically gives you saying, worship some different God, then don't follow him. And that's the thing. You do understand, we as Muslims, we believe in the same God as you do. So one thing about Muhammad, we do not believe, we're not asking you to follow a different God. So but the thing is also, we go back to the story of Abraham and his son Isaac. Remember, God gave him a command to go kill your son. Now you believe it was Isaac, we believe, but let's just go along with it. Uh, but then you remember at the very last second, God gave him a very different command. Okay, you don't have to kill your son anymore. So he replaced it with a lamb, which I believe is so. Here we see one law superseding over the next. So certainly, once again, what you are bringing to us is at very best open for interpretation. And I think the problem with religious people, they can't see that their interpretation is the only that is not the only valid one. Dude, there's other ways you can read this. So notice what I'm doing. I'm being very careful not to interpret the text. I'm only giving you facts. So I want to pause here and I want to just see how I'm doing. Am I living up to the standard which I have put for myself, that I'm only giving verifiable, testable facts to you? Am I doing that?
No.
Okay, what interpretation did I give you?
You gave me your interpretation of the text.
Okay, what is that interpretation?
The interpretation that you got by reading Deuteronomy 29:28, the one you got by 31:21, and the one you got by 13:1. However, it's not the interpretation the Jewish people carry. In which case, you're breaking the law of intentionalism, which means you're making your interpretation and not the intentional interpretation that was given by Moshe Rabbeinu and the prophets.
So here's the confusion you're having. You see, when I do what I am doing, I'm giving you a fact in the sense that I'm showing you alternative explanations, alternative interpretation. Now that is a testable, verifiable fact that, hey, I mean, now I'm not saying this is a right. If I were to say, look, this is a right interpretation, no, you're reading that wrong. What the Torah is really meaning over here, that's when you are giving somebody your own interpretation. But when you point out, look, oh, hey, look, this has alternative readings. This has an alternative way you can look at it. That's what I'm doing. I'm stating facts about the verse. So this goes back to that inherent deficit religious people have, that they don't have that ability, or they're not very good at determining what is an interpretation versus what is a fact and what is being explicitly related to you. So the fact which I'm giving to you is, okay, this has a couple of different ways you can read it. That's a fact.
So the issue is, you're not going to give me my interpretation. However, you're going to take your interpretation. Again, you have to give an objective interpretation that has actually been intentionally verified by the people who wrote it.
Again, the holy man.
Yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you never met the holy man. However, I met someone who met someone who met someone who met HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Who met God. In which case, you have no right to actually make interpretations on the Torah. Now, in regards to you making interpretations, if that's the case, then my interpretations of your Quran or Hadith, so on and so forth, they take precedence over the interpretation that's been transmitted via your sages, your scholars, right, or your Sheikh al-Albani. I'll go and I'm going to authenticate what's Sahih and what's not Sahih. I'm going to authenticate now what's mutawatir, what's not mutawatir, because ultimately that's my interpretation of your chains of transmission. That's my interpretation. And if that's the position you're going to take, ultimately, I, as a Yahud, have the ability now to actually decipher and determine what's authentic within your Hadith and what's not authentic, which again leaves you with issues. Again, you have to actually prove to me how your interpretation has importance over the interpretation the Jewish nation carries. And you can't keep saying that you're relying upon the text only, because I'm not an Akli, right? I'm not a Torah only. I believe in the Nevi'im, I believe in the Kesuvim, and I believe in the oral Torah. And likewise, you have oral interpretations that have been transmitted. You have tafsir. You both know you have tafsir. In which case, if I can interpret your books against your own tafsir, which I could, you have to concede that that's the position you're going to take. In which case, both our texts can be verifiably, objectively demonstrated as literally interpreted by ourselves, if that's the position you're going to take. So you actually have to prove to me how my interpretation of Moses isn't from Moses, without giving the same reasoning that it doesn't, that's your interpretation, because that's not illogical and it's not intentionalism, and you're breaking the rule of intentionalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the thing is, let's get to the facts. I mean, I wanted to find, just to sum up what I was asking for. I was asking for explicit verses where it said, the Torah will be preserved and it can never be changed. That's not there. I was looking for something which said, that the Bible, that's it. The revelation which you got here, whether it's a Torah, that's it. There will never be any more revelation. Moses is the last prophet. Khatamun Nabi, as they say in Arabic. Sorry, that stuff is just not explicitly written. Everything I'm stating is a testable, verifiable fact. I don't play interpretation games with the text. That's what religious people do. And it all goes back to John Mongrel. Remember, when he was confronted with facts, what did he do? He spun this in this type of interpretation delusion. All religions follow this paradigm. Why Islam is the true religion is because it doesn't follow that paradigm. So let me give you now testable, verifiable, scientific errors in your book. Okay, so let me just share my my desktop here. And so, it's not so much, okay, look, at the Bible is contradicting modern science. What you're going to find is that you'll find the fix in Islam. So here we see in your book, in the Bible, it has something called a virginity test. Basically, I'm just going to read this verse very quickly for you. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 17. It's talking about confirming a woman's virginity. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. And so the elders of the city shall take the man and chastise him. And look what it says here in verse 20. However, if the charge is true and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found. Let's just stop right here. That is a contradiction of modern science. Why? There is no there is no way you can prove a woman is a virgin or not, because looking at the hymen is unreliable. Why? Because science say that there's some women who are born without a hymen. There's some girls who have been sexually molested. There are people who have broken the hymen from horseback riding. This is something which science has been confirmed to be true. So here are the references which I will share with you from science. This is undeniable. But look at what the Prophet Muhammad said. It says the most wicked among the people in the eyes of Allah on the day of judgment is a man who goes to his wife and she comes to him and then he divulges her secret. So he goes to her, you know what's happening over there, and then you tell something about what took place in that bedroom. So here we see Islam is correcting the scientific inaccuracy of the Bible. So how would you explain this grotesque scientific error in your book?
So, firstly, right, we don't appeal to science. Science isn't objective. Everything transmitted in the Torah has been transmitted via an authentic transmission, right? So we don't appeal to science. Let me finish because you had 3 minutes and 10 seconds without me responding. Or more than that. And second of all, right, the Torah isn't claiming that assures virginity. It's not claiming that. So you actually have to read the verse in context.
So what is it claiming?
It's not claiming that assures virginity. Should we go to the verse?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. It's not.
The Torah isn't claiming that assures virginity.
Oh, assures virginity. Okay.
Correct. So if you want to swipe up to the verse again. And behold, he has charged with a shameful deed, saying, I did not find your daughter a virgin, but this is the evidence of the daughter's virginity, and they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. Right? So the elders of the city shall take him and take the man and chastise him, and they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give it to the girl's father because he publicly defamed a virgin of Israel. Right? So again, I don't believe this verse assures virginity. It's just a method of doing it, if that's the case. Now, again, we can touch on scientific errors in your Hadith. There's no issue. There's many arguments I could bring on scientific errors in Hadith. Again, I wouldn't say that that's an objective way to determine the reliability of something. I believe, for example, everything from within science is a study. There's nothing's affirmed, nothing's confirmed as fact. Rather, the majority of it is based upon certain things that they've established until then. However, science changes. So science isn't the criteria that we as Jews hold by, neither is a criteria that you hold by. So if that was the case, that, for example, the Torah would say that the sun is blue and science would say the sun is green, this wouldn't be an issue for us, right? Why? Because we don't rely upon the science as hujjah. It's not authority upon us. Again, in regards to this verse, you misinterpreted it. And you have to again interpret it according to the tradition we play. Because ultimately, if that's the position you're going to take, that's an entire debate. then it's not
Okay. Well,
logical.
there's your 2 minutes. Let me respond to some of that.
I haven't responded for 2 minutes. You had over
Yeah,
3 minutes.
no, that was 2 minutes. But okay, you can finish up.
So
Finish
you
up.
had, I literally timed you. You had
Mhm.
3 minutes and 40 seconds to speak.
Sorry about that.
That's no problem. No problem. It's fine. So yeah, and I'm also answering, so I might just slightly longer than the argument you're making. So yeah, so in regards to that, I have no issue if there's entirely scientific errors within the Bible. For example, the Quran says that meteors are fired at devils, for example, right? It says many things like that. However, it's my interpretation or interpretation of Torah that establishes what's true or not. It's not an interpretation that you give me ultimately.
Yeah. So that challenge, I do accept that is the Quran is in complete harmony with science. I would not be raising this discussion with you if I cannot prove that the Quran is in complete harmony with science. Like, it is one of the greatest evidences of that is look, all the atheists and the Christians, they have all ran away from that debate challenge. Why? Because they have seen the past debate victories and they know they cannot beat the case. People like Matthew Delahunty, people like Aaron Ra, David Wood, and all these Christian apologists, charlatans. I sit here mostly by my lonesome because I have nobody to debate this topic with. And that's when you know you have achieved a great success. Because when you when you have achieved a level of success, you're going to sit by your lonesome because all the other apologists know that that topic is unwinnable for them. But let's put that topic aside and let's go back to this. Don't appeal to science. Science is not the right criteria. These are all your interpretations. This is what the Christians say to defend the scientific errors of their book. Every false religion sings the same song and dance as what you are singing. Now, when you are saying that, okay, well, it didn't say that's a perfect bulletproof way to determine virginity. Well, actually, it does. It does state it. Because if there is no proof of the young woman's virginity, then you stone her to death. If it ain't, why would the Bible give you a faulty mechanism to determine the virginity that the innocent people are going to die? So let's go back to, the issue here tonight. The scientific error here is this right here. If no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, from a scientific point of view, the very endeavor, mark my word, the very endeavor of trying to find virginity is a scientific error because there's no way to determine that. Go ahead.
So again, the Torah isn't stating this is the only way to find out if she has sinned or if he's done something. It's saying this is one of the ways, right? This is one of the ways. So again, if you want, do you want to go read from verse 15? Let's read from verse 15 onwards. Do you want to read it? Or do you want me to read it
for you?
No
I'm sorry, verse 15, Deuteronomy 22:15. Okay, here we go. Then the young woman's, okay, did you want to read this or?
You can go ahead.
Then the young woman's father and mother shall bring to the town elders at the gate proof, at the gate proof that she was a virgin. Her father will say to the elders, I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. Now he has slandered her and said, I didn't find your daughter to be a virgin, which is wrong. There's no way you should do that. But here is a proof of my daughter's virginity. Here's a proof. Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elders of the town, which is an error. The elders shall take the man and punish him. Now, based on a cloth, they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give them to the young woman's father, because this man is given an Israelite virgin a bad name. She shall continue to be his wife, but he must not divorce her as long as he lives. If, however, the charge is true and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, there's no determination for that from a scientific point of view, that's wrong. She shall be brought to the door of her father's house, and the men of her town shall stone her to death. Okay, so what am I missing here? It's all wrong. Hello?
Okay, bear me 20 seconds. I'm just pulling up the verse. Bear me 2 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it's talking about the bed sheets here. That okay, you don't, but there's no proof on the bed sheets. That is absolutely false because many girls are not going to bleed.
Okay,
Using a bed
so
sheet to determine virginity is an act of ignorance.
so the cloth is going to be evidence of her virginity, right?
What's on the
Positive.
cloth?
Let me respond. I literally gave you 4 minutes to respond again, and yeah,
You gave
you
me
have
your
to.
minutes to read the verse for you.
Sure, sure, that's fine, no problem. So again, the cloth provides evidence. So don't interrupt
What?
me.
Okay, what's on the cloth?
Again, are you going to give me a chance to respond,
Okay, okay.
or okay? The cloth will provide evidence of her virginity, right? Positive evidence, right? Because if you have intercourse and she bleeds outside of her period, she has 99% chance on her virginity.
What? That's baloney.
Why? You actually have to prove it.
There a lot of girls are not going to bleed. If they were sexually molested, if their girls were born without hymens, if that girl broke her hymen in horse riding, this is all ways that
So,
that's not
so
going to
then she would
happen.
establish prior to that she's not a virgin, or she would
What?
establish so on and so forth. But if that's the case, that she never established it, right?
What? A sexually molested girl? You're going to? What does she has to do now? She's been, God forbid, molested by a relative. What? What does she have to do now?
And in regards to your interpretation, and he shall spread the cloth for the elders of the city. Again, our
What?
sages established that this is a figurative expression, and they must take the matter as white, as black and white, and as clear as a sheet. So again, this is from Sifri Devarim 237:1, verse 46a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Can you read that again? I'm. What did you quote?
yes, so in regards, and they shall spread the cloth before the city, the elders of Israel, of the city, right? We don't believe that they'll literally spread the cloth. We believe this is a figure of speech, as in this one's a pattern.
Oh,
Whether
interpretation. Hmm.
again, you actually have to prove that your interpretation, your so-called akli interpretation, your so-called subjective from your own akal, is actually more hujjah upon you than the interpretation that I have transmitted. And if this is where we're going to disagree, you actually have to kind of present a valid argument as to why this is the case. Because
Mhm.
next debate we have, I'm going to go on to 1,000 verses of the Quran. I'm going to misinterpret them to suit my narrative and to say how, the Quran affirms the Bible. Because if that's the case that you can do that, I can present the same argument that the entirety of the Quran affirms the entirety of the Bible.
Mhm.
So go ahead.
So I just want to share with you what science actually states. I'm quoting from this following article. It has referring to the blood on the bed sheets and the hymen. It has. I'm quoting from science. It has no scientific merit. The presence of lack of a hymen is not really evidence that sex had taken place. It could break during a fall, which I quoted for you. National Library of Medicine states to add more shame and suffering to the sexual violence survivors will undergo an examination to forcibly. This is talking about the damage which takes place to women who have been sexually molested, often forcibly, so that they can so the so-called virginity test. Look what science is calling it, the so-called virginity test for forensic purposes. But let me get to the exact scientific reference, which I was actually wanted to share with you here. Oh yeah, this is a very good article. The fact that the practice that doctors believe based on a misunderstanding of the female body. That's what all of what you are reading here is a misunderstanding of the female body and how it works. From a scientific point of view, it is unanimous in agreement that and what I'm sharing with you is just the damage it has caused throughout the centuries and ages of how women have suffered because of this teaching of the Bible. But going back to your radical, to your mongrel interpretation spin, you see, you just John mongreled us with that verse. That okay, so you see that about spreading the garments before the elder of the city. This is some figurative type stuff. That's a John mongrel interpretation spin. When confronted with fact was, hey, there is no reliable way to confirm virginity, and to spread the garments before the elders of the city, that's unreliable. That's an act of ignorance. It shows, as what science
Okay,
says, it
no
is a
problem.
misunderstanding of the female body. And so you spun a John Mongrel interpretation. Remember when John Mongrel said, the relationship I have with these men is like that of a man and a woman, when he was confronted with fact of his whatever he has. And you John mongreled us by spinning that verse as it's all metaphorical, right? Go ahead.
Okay, so again, I'll take on John Mongrel's story, and that's not Hujra upon me. I don't care if John Mongrel has his interpretations. Likewise, the same, I don't care about your interpretations. Like I repeat for the 50th time, we take the interpretations of the sages who are Hujra upon us. Like I said, I'm just going to take your entire Quran, and I'm going to interpret for myself what in your Hadith is Sahih and what's not authentic, right? What's Sahih? Because that's the viewpoint you're taking. So I don't hold by that. You're debating someone who does hold by that. So if you're going to hold by someone, debate someone who holds by that, then that's the position you should take. And actually refute me on the idea if the interpretations that I'm giving you are from Moses or if they're not. In regards to God's establishing, you should take it for the sages. Yes, I don't have to take that literally. Same way you don't have to take anything in your Quran literally. And I don't care if the apparent meaning is literal because I'm not a literalist. Right? I'm not a Qurani only. And likewise, you're not a Qurani only. So you have to actually like demonstrate with some sort of reasoning that like that's the position I take because that's not the position any Jew takes. Now you said women have suffered based upon this verse. No women have suffered based upon this verse because the interpretation you're taking from this verse is different than interpretation the entire Jewish nation takes upon this verse. In which case, people have suffered, women have suffered according to your interpretation of this verse. But no Jews actually hold to the interpretation that you're giving upon this verse, which means that no women have actually suffered in the Jewish nation upon this verse. Again, if you actually read the verse in context, right, it says that if it was to be that she wasn't a virginity, she hadn't had a virginity, in the sense that not if it broke by mistake, but if she was. Let me finish. I nearly like to interrupt. I understand. If it would be right that she actually broke it based upon a reasoning, right? You have to go into the commentary again. We'll establish this. We're up on commentary. Then, and I don't care if you don't like that, right? Then you actually have to prove to me how my interpretation of this verse is wrong, right? Not by the apparent meaning, but objectively through the transmission of the Torah. In which case, if you want to critique the transmission of Torah, you're welcome to go ahead with that. However, ultimately, you cannot interpret it, right, to suit your narrative, to suit your own interpretation, because I can interpret the Bible to suit my interpretation. And this is why Shias and Sunnis disagree with interpretation, because you both athletes. And if that's the position you're going to take, that's why you both end up with different interpretations. Go ahead.
Okay, so you do accept that you are just you're interpreting it away to reconcile the scientific error. You basically did concede to that. And that's what I told you from the very beginning of our discussion. If you listen to and go back to the very beginning, I said, listen, the false religions, all they're going to do is just reinterpret when confronted with facts. And here you are doing exactly what I just said you were going to do. And so, but I want to first get 10 seconds from you, just so that you do acknowledge that any type of determining if a woman is a virgin or not is an error. Will you accept that? Any kind of endeavor, any kind of practice to determine if a woman is a virgin is a scientific error. And as science said, it is a misunderstanding of the female body. Will you accept this, yes or no? Moshe, you there? Hello.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you talking about this verse in general, or are you talking about
no? I'm just saying that let's put the verse aside. And what I want you to understand, I'm asking you a clear question here, that I want you to accept that any type of endeavor or attempt to determine whether if a woman is a virgin or not is wrong. It cannot be determined. There is no reliable way to know if a woman or a girl is a virgin or not. Can you accept that?
I mean, I'm not too familiar with the scientific research.
That's where the problem is. Let's get you educated. And so the problem is you just don't know the science. So science is in unanimous agreement that virginity tests are unreliable. Let's just do a quick. I think I have the references right here. I'm going to get you. I hope I saved it. Yes. Yeah. Here's the article, which I'll quote for you. But it has no, referring to the virginity test, has no scientific merit. The presence or lack of a hymen is not really evidence that sex has taken place. It could break during a fall. And of course, there's women who have been sexually molested. Here is a following article.
Okay, you've been speaking for 3.5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just okay. So I just think you need to get educated on the science. So are we clear on that?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so again, I already established previously that science isn't hijra for me. right? Now, in regards to what you say regarding how this isn't an objective way to affirm it, this is just one of the ways to affirm it. However, the only refutation that you've given is upon this verse in a literal sense. However, you haven't actually refuted the way that the Jews interpret it.
Okay,
So
I'm
what you've
getting
done
there.
is, let me finish, please. Thank you. So what you've done is you've like raised an argument, right? And you've strawmanned me and said you hold by this, by my apparent interpretation of the meaning. And you're saying that this is what all Jews and the entire nation of Israel have to hold by, my entire nation of Israel. And now you're saying this is Hijrah upon me. And now you've gone and you've refuted it with science, right? Which is also not Hijrah upon me, which is basically strawmanning me. And then strawmanning me again with science, which isn't Hijrah upon me. So I wouldn't say that that's much of a refutation. Again, we interpret the Torah based upon like the Hadith of Moses, right? We don't interpret it based upon like our own actually reading. You have to stop doing this, because if you keep doing this, we're not going to have a debate. You actually have to address the interpretation that the Jewish sages give, right? You're welcome to open the sages' interpretations of this verse that we all unanimously hold by, but you cannot interpret it to suit your narrative. And if that's going to keep saying that I'm going to do a John, whatever I'm doing on you, right? Then that's the position I'm going to take, because ultimately you have the same thing, and you haven't actually addressed the idea that you do have the same thing. You just keep saying that you base upon it by your own interpretation. And again, that's not what Jews do. Yeah, and I've seen you multiple times as well make your own interpretation of Isaiah 42 to see your narrative. Likewise, the Christians too. I've got no issue with that. However, if that's the thing you do, then ultimately I'll do the same upon your book, which just isn't an objective way to actually decipher and interpret the intentionalism of the book.
Yeah. Okay, so all of what you're saying is false, because I haven't even got to that point. I haven't even got to the point of the sages, and everything you're saying is not correct, because I'm just trying to first educate you on what science says, because it looks like you're a little bit confused on that. So I will get to all your points in just a second here. So here I have an article, I think it's from NPR. Can you see my screen here? Let me make this a little bit bigger. This is another reference so that there can be no ambiguity on what science is saying here. Okay, Javed is the Islamic policy advisor for the Marie Stop USA, blah, 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 blah. He told the Ghanis that virginity tests are unscientific and medically unnecessary. I did quote the reference that this is a misunderstanding of the female body. So here we have many references. So what I want you to before we go to all the points which you raised, I need from you a firm confirmation that there is exactly what we see on what science is saying, that virginity tests are medically unnecessary and unscientific. I need you to first accept that, say yes or no, and then I can move on to the points which you raised. Can you take 10 seconds of my time and acknowledge that they're unscientific?
I can't, because I interpret this scientific research differently to how you interpret it.
Oh, so you're interpreting science in a different way than what
Precisely.
The scientists are telling you. This is unanimously agreed. No doctor, no scientist will ever endorse virginity tests, or else they'll be in jail. You know that, right?
Sure. However, I don't interpret the science, what they've written, the science is written to be like this. I interpret.
Okay, so you're not accepting the science, is what you're saying.
No. I accept the science. It's great, but I interpret it to mean what I mean.
Whoa. Wait a second. Are you accepting what the statement I have here, that virginity tests are unscientific and medically unnecessary? Will you accept that, yes or no?
So when I read this article, which I just kind of looked through it, I think it supports me. It says it is scientific, because I'm interpreting it to say that it's scientific.
Okay, so you believe virginity tests are scientific, right?
No, I don't actually, because that's not an interpretation that I made. That's your interpretation of the verse, Marshall.
Okay, hold on a second. Put away the Bible.
Your 2 minutes are way over, by the way.
Put away the Bible for just a second. Let's make sure we understand the science.
2.5 minutes. Your 2.5 minutes are way over.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. But clarify. Let's just talk about the science. Tell me what science is saying about virginity tests.
I don't care what science is saying, because I'm not taking the position of one of the scientists. Neither are you taking the position that the Jews take. You're taking some interpretation that you've established, and you basically upon that your position is correct. Again, I'll establish the position to you. 1, the argument that you're giving assumes scientific realism, which a Muslim cannot assume. B, granting scientific realism, the verse doesn't mean to provide a virginity test as per Rashi's explanation of the oral interpretation. C, the verse on its literal meaning means that if there is blood on the cloth given at the intercourse, the non-accidental bleeding of her body as wounds, and given that she isn't on her period, then it's a proof of her virginity. Right? So again, you've established this as your narrative, and you haven't actually refuted as per what Rashi says or what Rambam says or the Talmud says. And again, if I'm going to debate you on your interpretations, this is just going to be a never-ending debate because he'll be giving me verses, and when we take them literally, and there's some piece will be taken literally, and you'll be interpreting it, which in itself is your interpretation, whether it's literal or not. So you actually have to provide me. You do have to provide me some reasoning. And again, I'll assume the same thing with the scientific information. Maybe they were joking. That's my interpretation. Maybe they were lying. My interpretation. Maybe they're supporting me. That's my interpretation. So you actually do need to provide some sort of objective evidence, right? And then take the interpretation I'm giving you and not rely upon your own interpretation of the verse that you've given me. And it's like, if you speak for a minute and 10 seconds so far, right? And every minute I've spent, or every 2 minutes, I've spent at least a minute of it mentioning the idea, right? I mentioned the idea, right, very simply, that we do not rely upon our own interpretations and rather rely upon the interpretation of Torah. So unless you're going to refute Rashi, then you're welcome to kind of keep saying what you want to say.
Okay.
Hello?
So yeah, I heard what you said. Hey guys, let's just finish this discussion, then maybe we can open it up to some of the other questions here.
Before I have an addition to this discussion because it's not
Okay,
going
let's
nowhere.
just hold off on that, and I just need to finish the discussion because I think we've met our 1 hour. Moshe,
okay, before you start, you have to understand something. Are you a Sunni, sir?
Yakub, you need to chill for 1 second. Let me finish my discussion with Moshe. I'm a
Okay,
Sunni
go
Muslim.
on.
And then we can
with
have
all
a
my
talk
respect,
on
you
this
can go on.
topic. Okay.
Sorry.
So let me just kind of finish it up. It looks like we're finding double barrel spin interpretation. The double barrel spin interpretation meaning you're spinning the science to make it mean what you want to mean, and you're spinning the Bible to make it mean what you want to mean to reconcile this scientific catastrophe in your book. So I don't think, it looks like, I asked you a couple of times clearly, what's your view on what science is saying? And I got all kinds of weird answers. And you're telling me about what Rashi and all the sages have said in the past. And that automatically, proves what I have been telling you from the very beginning, that all the false religions, they cannot the Torah, the Bible cannot stand by itself. It needs this body of interpreters to reconcile, to smooth over the clear errors. And the mere fact that you had to jump out of the Torah and go to Rashi and go to all these other people is proof of what I have said from the very beginning, that if you read this book, you will find scientific errors in it which cannot be reconciled from within the covers of the text. So then the holy men come out to deceive all of it, not just Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, all the false religions play the same song and dance you play, Moshe. You see, because they know this book has errors in it. So the holy men come out to smooth things over. Now, I will ask you, before the science was known that there's no reliable way to know the virginity of a woman, this is all nonsense. And of course, sexually abused girls. Which of your sages said, no, blood on the bed sheets this is not the right way to interpret this text? So you want to appear to your holy men. Okay, which holy man is telling you that blood on the bed sheets is not the way this verse is to be interpreted? Go ahead.
Can I start my?
Well, let's Moshe just quickly answer, and then we can open up to other people.
So I've already established my opinion. I think
Show it to me.
I think we've kind of already going around the circles with your interpretation of the verse. So I'm going to have to concede that unless you can actually debate me on the interpretation that a sages give, then you're just going to be debating yourself at that point. So maybe you should go do a little.
Where is it?
Let me finish. I never interrupted you. Don't be disingenuous. On the other side, I like to be sometimes. It's like the fourth time you've done this. Again, I've already established to you the interpretation that Jews hold by. And if you want to debate me on that, then what am I debating you on? I'm debating you upon your own intent, your own interpretation. So you should go do some research prior to the debate and interpret what Jews believe. Not so that they can fix the text, but that's actually the belief that was transmitted since Sinai, right? So I think you should go do some research on that, and then we'll have another discussion. But any of the other guys you've added up here, Yakub, Ismail, they're welcome to go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think Yakub, you had a question, and Moshe, I am asking you for your holy men's interpretation that blood on the bedsheet is not the right way to understand this verse. But go ahead, Yakub. What is your? Let's talk on the topic here of blood on the bedsheet. Let's stick to this topic. And
before we talk about this topic, I would like to spread the ground for fruitful conversations, because the whole conversation has started on a misunderstanding about the interpretation of Judaism. Now, I want to ask you if you're a Sunni.
Yeah, I'm Sunni.
So you believe in the Sunnis fundamental thinking, right?
I think so.
So, for example, can I bring you a mistake, a scientific mistake in the Quran?
You could. However, let's finish the topic on blood on the bed sheets, and then we can talk about the Quran.
Let me spread out the Quran to get my idea. Then you can finish.
So maybe I should then comment on the Torah.
In the
Yeah.
Quran 51, 40, ayah 51, verse 48, we have in the earth, we have spread it. How excellent are the spreaders. We have again, وَالْأَرْضُ فَرَشْنَاهَا فِنِعْمَ الْمَهِدُونَ. And we have والأرض مددناها وألقينا فيها رواسا وأنبتنا فيها من كل شيء موزون. In the earth we have spread and cast it with the rain, etc., etc. Now the Quran says that the earth has been flattered, which
Whoa,
in
whoa,
ancient times.
whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I don't
Hold
think
on,
the
let
Quran
me
says that.
finish. Let me finish.
Yeah.
The idea that Al-Qahtani, do you know Sheikh Al-Qahtani? He had defended that the earth is flat. However, science has proven something else. Now the interpretations, and I see the tafsir in Arabic says that the earth is not flat, but the verses used in Arabic means it is in something that asks us to be shocked. Alam tara, haven't you seen? This implements something that you have to be shocked at. I'm not saying the Quran is wrong, but if you're taking the literal meaning without a tafsir, then you're not a Sunni, but a Qur'ani, the Qur'anism. And what
Yeah,
you're
all right.
doing,
Okay.
what you're doing is exactly what you're doing to the Torah.
No,
Now we are
no, no,
using
no.
the interpretation that Moshe Rabbeinu has gave us, and if you're going to reject them, that you are a Qur'ani
Okay.
according to Islamic
Okay, hold on a second. Hold
theology.
a second.
The issue is,
Whoa,
Yaakov,
whoa,
is
whoa, whoa,
named.
guys! Don't
He's
hijack
not
my
actually,
show
he's
here,
not,
please.
He's not actually going to respond to your argument. He's just going to keep saying,
Yeah,
but I
guys.
see the literal meaning because it's literal
Okay,
meaning.
you guys are trying to hijack my show. I don't want to mute anybody.
We're not. We're
Okay.
just trying to say that you have to interpret the way we
Okay.
interpret it, and not
You are
according
telling
to your
me
own
that
way.
the interpreters knew that, I'm asking you guys are Jews. Show me which interpreter is telling me that this verse is not referring to blood on the bed sheet. Which interpreter?
Rashi,
Go ahead. Show me
the
the text of
only
Rashi. I don't have his book. Where can I find it?
on Sefaria, just click
Okay,
on the
let's go.
verse and
Okay,
you'll get
I
it.
will help. Let's go there. Safaria. Let's go there.
The issue is you're actually now changing your position, not Ahmed, which
No,
is
hold on a second.
disingenuous in
Let's
itself.
just first see what the holy men are saying. Go ahead. Okay, where do I go? Guide me.
We can't see Safaria.
Oh, can you guys see my? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong website. Never mind. I'm on the wrong thing. Let's go there. Safaria. Okay. Okay, here we go. And Tanakh? Or where do I go? Help me.
Which verse? May I get which verse? Are we
The verse
talking
in
about?
question, which we have been talking about, is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 15 through 22, verses 15 through 21.
Yes, so go to
As
Safaria, go Tanakh, go Dvarim, Deuteronomy,
Navi?
and
Or I'm sorry, where do I go?
Deuteronomy, right there,
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
and chapter 22.
Okay, 22 and 15. So where can I find Rashi stuff?
You click the verse,
Click on the verse.
Okay.
and then you click commentary, and he should be number 1.
Okay, Rashi. Okay, and then commentary. Oh, should I go right here?
Yes.
Commentaries. Rashi. Okay, so let's read what he says. Let those who have reared this depraved child. Okay, is there any way I can read more? Oh, let's go here. Or actually, let's go here. I think this will must. Okay. Okay, this figurative expression, they must make the matter as white as clear. So he's saying that the sheet needs to be white. Is that what Rashi is saying? Hello? Can you guys see my screen? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, can you? Oh, okay, I can hear you. Yeah. So my question to you guys is, Rashi is saying that the sheet needs to be white. Okay, that's wrong. So,
But
which,
is he saying that though? Because as he said, it's a figure of speech. It's
but
not
he's telling
literal.
you that the sheet must be white.
Indeed, usually a sheet is white, so it must be as clear as a
Because
sheet.
he's okay. So what I was asking here, that blood on the bed sheet, that one of your holy men is actually going to say, no, dude, that's not the right interpretation of this verse. Oh, you guys said that. Now, where can I find this?
So see, the entire problem is that you say that you don't follow an interpretation, but what that actually means is that you primarily just use the interpretation in your head, where we all agree to the interpretation that Moses taught. The Torah itself says that Moses both received the Torah and the instructions there too, because without the instructions, we couldn't understand
Well,
any of
let's
the
get
Torah.
back to the Rashi stuff. You told me that the commentaries and the holy men of the old, they didn't go along with what I'm saying. And I'm asking you, where is that? We went to Rashi. This guy is saying the sheet's got to be white. Let's see what else Rashi is saying over here, because I'm curious. So let's see. We go here. Okay, and this is a lot, indicating readiness. Blah 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 blah. Um,
That is the dictionary. You
oh,
highlighted one word.
I'm sorry. Let's go to 17. Okay.
I think now you need to go. You see up in the menu that opened, you need to click resources, the little arrow there, and go back to
Resources.
Rashi commentary.
Okay. Resources. And then we go to commentary. Okay. So we go to Rashi, the most widely read. Oh, but okay, he's not really. And then when he says about, moreover, let's see what he says about this. So we don't have Rashi on this one. Okay. Well, basically, I think what we're finding here is no commentary is going to refute the understanding about the blood on the bed sheets.
But no commentary is available on the site
Most
because we're
widely
not
read,
allowed to read
explain simple meaning.
everything.
Okay, without elaboration. Okay. If a man is found, the elders of the town shall take. Okay, so basically, I think you guys sent me on a wild goose chase. To be very honest with you, you told me that the commentaries are going to refute me, which was wrong to begin with, because that would
I
actually
didn't
disprove
say
the.
the commentary will refute you. I didn't
Okay,
say that the commentary of this verse will
okay,
refute you, but I
so
said
that's a big.
I just teach you how to use commentary on every verse.
Well, thanks. I did need that. I'm the
Now
one
let's
here
compare
most in
this to
need
an
of learning.
Islamic perspective. Now, in an Islamic perspective of learning, if you're going to read a verse from the Quran, you'll have to get Tafsir Ibn Taymiyyah or Tafsir al-Tabari
Nah,
or some tafsir at some point to read it. And if you don't, you're a Qur'ani,
no,
which is
listen.
from the Khawarij.
Let me correct you on something. When we talk about reconciling alleged scientific errors of the Quran or the Bible, the
I can
miracle of
give you a
Islam
list
is.
of
Wait, let
scientific
me talk.
errors in the
Let me
Quran
talk
as
here.
well.
Please don't talk over me.
Okay?
When we talk about that, I don't need to do that. The text itself you can look at the text itself, and it can defend, the Quran can defend itself from all error claims without having to resort to a commentary. You see, what
Well,
you're
it
not
doesn't.
getting here is it's a common scam. All religions do it. Christians do it, Jews do it, Hindus do it, where they
Muslims
can
do it.
see the scientific error of their book. So then they call upon some holy man to try to reconcile all the contradictions, all the errors,
Can I
and
give
they
you a
give them an
contradiction?
interpretation delusion. What I'm telling you, I don't have to play that game with the religion of Islam. Okay, you guys have to
Okay,
play that, and
I
that game
challenge you.
failed. That's
I
what's
challenge
terrible
you.
about this. Okay, so let's
I
go back.
challenge you. Go
Let's
to
go.
Quran
Yeah.
71,
Whoa,
16.
we'll get to the Quran in just a second. We'll get to the Quran and just let's finish up what we have over here with this horrid virginity test. Because I told you, look, this has caused a lot of suffering and pain in a lot of people's lives. Because remember,
Well, guess
a
what? That
sexually
the
molested
Talmud says
girl,
something else.
hold on. A sexually molested girl, you're subjecting them to a virginity test. That is absolutely appalling. And you're claiming that this is God's word, that this horrible, evil, because that's really what it is. A virginity test is something so evil. Now, let me share with you references from Jewish, Christians, and Muslims, all suffering from this. Why Muslims? Because now this evil has spread like a virus all throughout the Middle East, and this is from it is permeated their culture. So it
Can you
says
please
over here.
can you
I want to
please
read
give
this.
us the documents?
Yeah. So here's an article about the historical tradition of wedding night virginity tests. Okay, is offered to young couples to take receipt of the blood-stained wedding sheet, which we read in the Bible, which will later be shown to the dinner guests at the celebratory feast. That's exactly what we read in the Bible in the book of Deuteronomy. The punishment for failing a virginity test varies depending on culture, and it talks about it could even result into death. Okay, so here we see Orthodox from the following article, Public Health Post. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger because I know that's hard to read. Orthodox Jewish communities and among Christian fundamentalist groups are among some of the people who practice this virginity test. So, no, this is not a Nadir Ahmed interpretation thing. I'm showing you that Jews still practice this. So let's go. Here is the horror of virginity. A two-finger virginity test was intended to prove Samaya's innocence and worth to potential husbands, but it just left her feeling dirty. Look at this.
Okay, can we talk about like the practicity of this test?
To add more
The-
shame and suffering to sexual violence survivor. Oh, this is look to add more shame and suffering to sexual violence. Survivors will undergo an examination,
Okay, do you know
often
what the
multiply, so that they call the virginity test. This is the This is the suffering which Deuteronomy has caused throughout the world, and you're calling this God's word. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it is God's word. And do you know what the Deuteronomy said?
What does it say? Yeah.
Well, there is a commentary on the Talmud which says there is the theory and there's a practice. In the practice, the Talmud said that if a woman or a young lady is raped, the virginity test is not to be applied on her.
What the Talmud has to do with this? You cannot defend the
Sanhedrin
Tanakh by
282
itself.
cases concerning one who rapes or one who seduces a virgin girl and must therefore pay for the girl father's 50 silver of shekels, and case concerning the defamer who falsely asserted that his wife was not a virgin when she married him and brings false witnesses to testify that she committed adultery while betrothed to him and who must therefore pay the girl's father 100 silver shekels.
Yeah, so the Tanakh is the Talmud denying that Deuteronomy 22 is not referring to any kind of blood virginity test of the hymen? I mean, is that really in
The
the Talmud?
virginity test is something to start with in the Middle East.
But
We
you
could
should
not.
never start with it. That's what science is saying. It is unreliable. What do you do to people who have been sexually molested? You
Well,
never start with this. Oh my
we
God.
have a law on them, which their virginity is still valid. I gotta go.
What? What are you doing, huh? I don't understand what you're talking about, dude. Look, the Jew ran away. He cannot defend the Tanakh.
So that makes the two of us. Okay. So
And
we need to stop.
Jonas, yeah. Look, the Yahudi ran away because they cannot defend the scientific errors of their holy book.
Nadir, we need to look at the Tanakh in a whole different way, because your premise that the Torah itself cannot stand up for itself is completely false. The Torah itself states there is a Talmud, an oral interpretation as to how to understand it. Because when you yourself are interpreting the text, we have a big problem, because the interpretation that Moses gave of the text, considering he's the one who wrote it, must surely be the correct interpretation.
Jonas, here we go. We got Yakub back with us. Does Talmud claim, no, don't look at the blood on the bed sheets. That's unreliable. This is not the way the verse is to be interpreted.
No.
That in Talmud?
Do not put words in my mouth. The Talmud said that if a woman is raped, we do not take her as a non-virgin. She is a virgin even though
Okay,
she
that's
was
good.
raped.
That's good.
This
But
is
that
what
has
the
nothing to do with
Talmud
what we're
says.
talking about.
I'm
Okay, look,
talking
dude,
about
listen
practical
to me.
law.
When
It had not
when a
led.
girl has,
It
okay,
had
you don't
not led
understand
to the
sexual
death of
violence.
millions and the sufferings of people.
Yakub, listen. When a woman has been, God forbid, she's like, maybe 12 years old and somebody did something to her terribly, she
She's a
hides that
virgin.
secret, okay? She's not going to go around and tell everybody, hey, everybody, I got raped. And so, she's going to hide that. And that's the whole point. Yes, you should hide that. Don't tell the people. You know why? Because you will be stigmatized by the society. So,
Not at all.
you're right. You will be
Not in a
stigmatized
Jewish
because
society.
now it comes. Oh well, now the debate comes. Well, he really didn't rape me. It was she wanted it, and all that evil. So the problem here is where I mean, this what you are telling me that now you're telling that the girls of sexual violence must all come forward and tell all of the society, hey, this happened to me. Is that what you're telling me?
She's not going to tell all the society. In today's age, when someone gets raped, do they publicly announce it? No. They go to the authorities.
Okay, let's talk about 100
And
years
the
ago.
same thing is applicable to the Jewish law, where they go to the Sanhedrin or the court or even their parents.
Oh my God, it gets so much more worse. Now you're okay. Let's look at about a couple of 100 years ago when a girl gets raped, and now that she's coming upon marriage and she knows she's got to face a virginity test. You're telling us that she's now got to go to the court and tell people, oh, by the way, I was raped when I was
Yes, she
12.
can.
She has
And
to
the
or she
rapist
can?
will be stoned to death.
Okay. Oh my God, the level of stupidity here is just mind-boggling. Well, first of all, number one, now it's going to come to the question. Oh, well, I'm sure they're going to start questioning her. Oh, I'm sure you were raped versus you had a one-night stand. Now, all of this nonsense. Oh, she's going to get stigmatized. Everybody, did you hear what happened to her? She came forward and said that she's actually not a virgin. She claims she was raped. So now she's got to go through all of this, people talking behind her back. Because now, according to what you're saying, you need to come forward before the court and say that you were raped because you ain't gonna pass that test, which is
Didn't
bogus
you
to begin
understand
with.
when I said she goes to a court?
Okay.
When we go to a court, do they publicly announce our
Mhm.
reports? No, they
Okay,
stay
so
private.
so that
The
was
police
so ridiculous.
wouldn't post your crimes
Okay,
online.
okay, she ain't gonna pass no virginity test, and now you're telling me. But let's now
Na-
also focus on a woman who is not who's
Nadir,
born not with a hymen. What
there is
about
no
a
virginity
woman?
test. There is no
What?
virginity test in this text at
Okay.
all. If you read what the Talmud says in Ketubah 46, verse 24, we get the explanation of Rabbi Abahu, who says that no, it is in fact not an actual garment or any actual fabric that they spread out. Actually, what they mean is that they should spread out the garment, quote unquote, which teaches us that the witnesses should come forth and everyone should testify and the matter should be analyzed and studied in depth.
What matter is being analyzed? The blood?
The rape,
No,
the
Deuteronomy.
testimonies.
Wait a second. Okay? So a woman gets raped. Okay, and you're telling what is she supposed to do now?
So now, what has to do? They go to the elders of the city. They go to the court, and what will happen is that they cross-examine the witnesses, and they'll get all the testimonies, and that is how they will decide what's going to happen.
Okay,
Or any
that's
witnesses
unreliable
present,
too.
or word versus
Yeah.
word.
So let's go back to the issue of women are rupture their hymen from horseback riding. What are they supposed to do? Because they're going to be facing an unscientific virginity test. What
There
are
is
they supposed
nobody
to do?
who's even mentioning a virginity test except for you. You're the only one who
Well,
cares about
okay.
hymen.
So wait a second. So when they spread, what is Deuteronomy talking about spreading out the bed sheets? And if there's no proof of the virginity, there's no such thing as proof of virginity. Okay, that is completely unscientific. But if this is not referring to the virginity test, what is it talking about?
It is a figure of speech, as I told you, as
It's
the
a
Talmud
speech.
states.
Rhetorical. Okay. Which one of your sages said that proof of virginity is a figurative speech? There's really no such thing. Which one of your holy men is saying that?
Rabbi Abahu, as I
Rabbi
just
who?
told you. Abahu.
Okay, can I look at that reference where it says there is really no such thing as a virginity test? Which reference is saying that?
That is, if you want to screen share, I can show you.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. Screen share, because I'd like to read
Me?
this. Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you have the permission to do that? Do you? Um,
Share screen.
and who is the person that you're even quoting?
Talmud.
Okay, it's in the Talmud that there's really no, what's it called? There's really no virginity test. There's no blood on the bed sheets. All this stuff. There's none of this, right?
It's the chat. Do you see it?
I don't see anything. No. Oh no. I'm sorry. I do. In fact, let me add to the stream. Here we go. I was supposed to. There we go. Let's make this a
So
little
we
bit
can
bigger.
just enlarge it a bit. Oh, that did not go well.
Okay.
Let's see.
Whoa, first, what is the?
Did I go? Oh wait, I need to go back up.
And this isn't. You're quoting the Talmud to me, right?
Wait, that's way too big. Yeah, this is the Talmud.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, wait. The search sheet. So here we go. So Rabbi Abahu said that the rabbis interpret this expression as follows: "They shall spread, i.e., examine that which has been placed against her." So not actually she. Rather, in other words, they cross-examine the witnesses who testify against her. You don't really need to read more. You can read the rest of it if you want to, but this is all you need to know.
Okay. Rabbi Abahu said that the rabbis interpret this expression as follows: they shall spread and examine that which he placed against her, which is wrong. In other words, they cross-examine the
Don't add
witness.
a comment. Don't say
They
which is wrong.
cross-examine the witness who testifies against her. Okay.
No.
Wait a second.
So don't say this is wrong. You shouldn't add that comment because you are
Okay,
misinterpreting.
I'll tell you what I think. I'll say Nadir thinks this is wrong. Okay. So they testifies against her as it is taught in the Baraita, and they shall spread the garment. This teaches that the witness of this husband, come forward, and likewise the witness of the father come forward, and the court clarifies the matter like a new garment. So I don't read anything here about not examining blood on the bed sheet. I don't see anything like that. Rather, I'm seeing that that they're trying to determine virginity in the text here, and then you got to take it to the court. They're trying to find a way: is this girl a virgin or not? That's
So
what
how
Rabbi
do
is
you
trying
read
to
this?
Yeah.
How do you read? In other words, they cross-examine the witnesses who testified against her. The reason for
Okay.
this samla, after here you made your own comment. You said which is wrong, but which is placed against her. These are the arguments and the things that they're accused of. They're accusing each other. So we gathered the testimonies.
Okay. So why? Okay. So what you have just now, this is a second attempt to appeal to the holy men of old to try to reconcile a clear scientific contradiction in the Tanakh, and it fails too, because I don't read anything in there which explicitly states that virginity test, examination of the hymen, blood on the bed sheets, this is not right. Don't practice it. Don't do it. I'm sorry, that's not in the Talmud. That's not in any of what the references you have shared for me. So I think we can conclude on this. I don't believe we need to go any further. And the point which I'm trying to make to you, it's not just that, okay, look, the Bible has errors in it, therefore it's wrong. I mean, yes, that's part of the reasoning, but let me share my my screen over here, okay? The issue here is one of the scientific miracles of the Quran and of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that he fixes the scientific errors of the Bible. And I'll share one quick story with you about this. Where is the hadith which I quoted? Yeah, look, this is so much better teaching. This is in complete harmony with modern science. It says the most wicked among the people in the eyes of Allah on the day of judgment is a man who goes to his wife and she comes to him. We all know what's going on there. And then he divulges her secret about what he found and what he didn't find on that bed sheet, as well as anything else, by the way. So here we see that that Islam prohibits the practice of of what's it called, a virginity test. Oh, by the way, we can go to our scholars as well. The scholars also have condemned the practice of virginity tests. It says a reprehensible tradition of the husband family showing the virgin blood, and many of the scholars have also condemned this. I want to share one story just to kind of sum up this real quick. There was actually a Muslim who came to me, and he was kind of watching. He has understanding of some of these debates, and he said, "Listen, I was with my wife on our first night, and I was shaving after the deed took place, the sexual intercourse took place. She came into the bathroom with a bed sheet like this to confirm. Look, hey, look at there was some blood." He says, "You know what I did? After reading what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, I just ignored her. I just kept on shaving." And I'm like, that's Islam. Good, because that's nonsense. That's the and I just wanted to just kind of end on that point. So I said a lot. Now I know some people have raised some issues of the Quran. Does the Quran have any kind of scientific contradictions? Let's do one very quickly, and then we can wrap up. How did that sound?
Yeah, cool. Take this one.
Who wants to take it? Who wants to come forward to show is the Quran contradicts modern science? Anybody? Bueller? You guys watch that movie? What movie is that from? Oh my God, I'm forgetting. It's been such a long time. Okay, so I guess nobody wants to come forward for alleged scientific contradictions in the Quran. Okay, going once, going twice. All right, that's it. But to basically sum up, we are ready to debate and defend the Quran in terms of modern science as well. I think what you're going to find is we're not going to go to commentaries. We're not going to say, "Oh, but holy men of old have said this." And we actually go there and they don't say that. The Quran can stand for itself. So, okay.
Okay, can we discuss this?
Oh, okay. Never mind. At the last second, Jonas.
Okay.
Yes.
So if the Quran can stand for itself,
Yes.
what does that even mean? Does that mean every single Muslim is able to then interpret it for himself? Or is there one correct interpretation of the
I'm
text?
just talking about scientific error claims. When people point alleged scientific errors in our Quran, I don't need to go run to commentaries to defend it.
But what if we take any verse from the Quran?
Mm-hmm. You will never be able to find an error with it.
Take any verse from the Quran. You act like you don't have Islamic scholars. Of course you do. Of course, these Islamic scholars help answer questions that Muslims don't understand about their own text. So naturally, yes, every single religion has scholars. Now, the difference between our scholars and your scholars is that our scholars heard somebody who heard God himself giving these instructions at Mount Sinai, where that is not the same as you. For you have people who interpret it themselves.
Okay, well, no, I don't agree with that, but we could have that discussion at a later time, Jonas. But I think we can wrap up. It looks like we kind of went over a little bit. But yeah, if anybody wants to debate me or challenge me on the Holy Quran, definitely. But I want you to now think. Look, if what I'm saying is right, you Jews are going to burn in hell. You Jews are not going to go to heaven. And I want you to seriously consider, is Muhammad a true prophet based on what we have seen? I mean, that's amazing. I mean, and how many of these, I showed you how Prophet Muhammad is correcting the scientific errors of the previous books. I can show you more examples of this, by the way.
According to the Torah, he's a false prophet.
Well, no, that's your interpretation. See, the thing is, if the Torah is wrong, if the Torah has errors and has been corrupted by man, and the virginity test clearly demonstrated that,
then that's your interpretation.
Then that means, you have no guarantee. You are believing in something which is inherently wrong, and it will mislead you. Even though there's a lot of truth in there, it will mislead you, and it will send you guys to the pit of hell where you'll burn for the rest of eternity. So that's why I'm asking the Jews, consider the evidence which we have displayed today, and challenge Islam. Come back to me and say, listen, I'm going to challenge the Quran the same way you challenge the Torah, the Tanakh. And let's see if Islam passes that test. And if it does, I want you guys to consider becoming Muslim, because then you really follow Prophet Moses. You will really
No
follow
way.
all the prophets. You will.
Muhammad fails the test to be a prophet in the Torah. That's all I need to know.
But if the Torah is wrong, then it doesn't matter. But she doesn't, by the way.
This is the problem, that you think you can correct things with retrospect. That you have a man who lived in the year 600 and he then corrects things thousands of years before.
Yeah.
When
and
we have
see, he just did with a
Masorah.
virginity test. He did do it.
But the problem is this is your interpretation once again. And then once I give you the correct interpretation, then you put your left interpretation on top. No matter what I show you, you refuse to see it.
There's no way you were able to defend the Bible. There's no way you were able to defend the virginity test in the Bible. You said, okay, well, let's go to Rashi. Let's go to commentaries.
Of course. Let's go to Rashi. Why? Because
they didn't defend it either.
He did.
Oh, my God. No, he
Rashi
didn't. We just went through that whole discussion.
That it's a figure of speech. The first sentence he said was, this is a figurative speech.
But then he said that the sheet's got to be white.
No, it doesn't. It does. It should, because his explanation of the entire
He's not denying that the blood on the bed sheet and examination, all this, he's not denying any of that. You see what you're doing?
It's a figure of speech. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. What you are doing is you are trying to interpret an interpretation. You're giving us an interpretation of an interpretation just to defend the scientific error in your book. But look, we're done with that. I think, please consider the evidence and which has been presented to you today. The Tanakh is not perfect. It does. And this is just one scientific error. We got contradictions. We have false prophecies. There are many problems with the book. And it's not just Nadir who's saying that. Many Jews, many Christians do acknowledge what I'm telling you and sharing with you. Okay, so
no single Orthodox Jew would agree with you.
There's people who are, what are called? Orthodox Jews do not, but then there's people who are liberal Jews. I think, what do you guys call them?
Liberal Jews.
Reform,
you better listen to the gays.
Jews. Yeah, Reform Jews do acknowledge mistakes in the book. Okay.
Because they don't understand the text, because they reject all that.
They're right. We just saw they're right, dude. That virginity test pretty much confirmed it. Okay.
Okay, so you would rather listen to atheists than religious people.
Well, they're not atheists. They're right. If they can show proof that the book is wrong, and we did see that the book is wrong, then there's.
But we did not, because you've not disproven anything. Though you choose to
blood
ignore
on the bed sheet, proof of virginity. All of these teachings of the Bible, there's no such thing as proof of virginity. We've already had this discussion, okay? But you don't want to accept it.
No, your problem is it's not literal. And because it's not literal, you don't comprehend that it's not literal. And you try to make it something which is literal.
You're saying literally there's errors, but you just got to read it figuratively. Then all those errors will disappear, is what you're telling us, right? Okay, gotcha. We'll let you have that last word on that.
What if you read something like Deuteronomy 6:6 and it says, these teachings, these words which I give you today, you shall put them on your heart. Can you literally take a book and put it inside your heart? I think that would hurt quite a bit.
There are metaphorical things, there are allegorical things in all the Bible and the Quran. Absolutely.
And how do you know which one is which?
But I don't think that's the issue going on with the virginity test verse of the Bible.
There is no virginity test.
Yeah, well, there is. And if you read Deuteronomy, we've went through all of that.
Test. That's the problem. It's a question of taking all the testimonies, gathering them, comparing them, and making a judgment.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Well, I'll let you have the last word on that. I'm going to have to close up my room. I do have to go, but I do appreciate you guys coming forward for that discussion. Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye.
God bless you and have mercy.
Mm-hmm.